America doesn't have an official religion, but when you grow up in Colorado, you do. I was born into the church of the Denver Broncos. I was baptized in the church by my grandfather. Every Sunday, I sat down next to his armchair. He poured a single glass of Manischewitz, which was a really weird choice for an old German man. And we watched John Elway and the Broncos. And when the Broncos lost, he didn't yell at the TV. He just quietly turned it off and said, "It's just a game. There are more important things." My grandfather was a carpenter, and when he got too old to build houses, he started using spare wood in his garage to make tables, to stay busy. And when he died in 2006 and I moved to DC, I brought 3 things with me: his love of the Broncos, his Chevy pickup, and a crappy lacquer-top coffee table. The last table he ever made. I thought about him a lot last fall because the Broncos were on an epic tear. 606 points, the most scored by any team in football history. They're the favorites to win the Super Bowl. And from back home, my best friend Tony called. "Raj, man, you gotta go to the game. You gotta go for me and for your grandpa." I didn't think about going to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's obscenely expensive, but Tony had one argument that I couldn't disagree with. "Well, you know they're gonna win because, well, Raj, man, you need a win right now." Tony was talking about the other thing happening on Super Bowl weekend. My girlfriend, Beth, of 4 years, was moving out of our apartment. Beth and I loved each other like crazy, but we didn't agree on a lot. We had trouble with money and where to live and whether to have kids, and those big things made little things really hard, especially our apartment. I'm not one of those "a man's home is his castle" kind of guys, but I'm stubborn enough to also not believe in that old-fashioned idea that the woman designs the home just because she has taste. I mean, it's a home we have together. It should represent who we both are. So I'll get my Johnny Cash and John Elway posters, and she'll get her candles and couch pillows. But it was always a battle. I mean, we argued about furniture and where to put the furniture. And she always said that she felt like I wanted to live in a dorm room. But all the furniture we kept was hers, so I basically lived in a pottery barn. And she still said she was worried that she was going to live in a man cave, and I didn't want her to feel that way. I mean, we shouldn't feel like we're living in somebody else's house. So I gave up my favorite dishes, and these were awesome. They were a complete set, octagonal and jet black, because I also have taste. By the way, I bought those dishes secondhand because there's somebody else in the world that also thought they needed to eat cereal out of an octagonal black bowl. That person probably gave them up because his girlfriend told him to. And then there was my grandfather's table. She said, "I just can't have that in my house." Her house, not ours. And so we fought about that, and I gave in, and I took it down to storage in the basement. And when I was carrying it, I was wondering whether she really got me at all. And the big things and those small things built up, and before Christmas, we had the conversation we both kind of knew was coming. She said, "I just can't love you into being who I need you to be." She was leaving, and I was going to be alone. And I started watching football. I started watching all football when she left. Every game, every playoff game, I read every article. I obsessed about the Broncos' path to the Super Bowl. And a few weeks later, when she called and said that Super Bowl weekend was when she was going to actually come move everything out, it might be less emotionally difficult if I went somewhere else, I took it seriously. 2 days before the Super Bowl, I got online. I found a single ticket, field level, 30 rows from the field. It was $1,500. I swallowed hard, and I bought it. I called it my precious. Going to the Super Bowl is a really weird experience. Going is like, it's like standing next to the sun. You're next to something that's so big and bright and hot that you can't even really describe it. I got off the train in New Jersey, and in the parking lot, there's actual pillars of flame. You walk in the stadium, and everybody's screaming, and there's loudspeakers and spinning logos on the screen and fireworks, and the Broncos are led into the stadium by Thunder from Denver, an actual horse. First play of the game, Peyton Manning's behind center, and the snap sails over his shoulder and bounces into the end zone, right in front of me. The Seattle Seahawks recover, and they've scored 12 seconds into the game. For the Broncos, the game's a disaster. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing. It's an epic collapse. Watching is torture. It's like watching your dad get yelled at by his boss. By the end of the first half, the score is 22-0. And the game is only half over. And really, the game is over. I can't take it, and at halftime, I'm not feeling very comforted by the dulcet tones of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So I go get a beer, and I come back for the third quarter, and the Broncos kick off. And the Seattle returner runs it back 103 yards into the end zone. In a stadium of 80,000 people, 40,000 of them are all thinking, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I start going through the 5 stages of grief right there in the stands. Denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and Budweiser. I blocked out most of the rest of the game, but the final scoreboard tells the story. It's 43-8. The greatest offense in football history scored 1 touchdown. And they did it while I was in the bathroom. The game ends, and silver and blue Seattle confetti fills the air, and it falls on the field. I leave the stadium, I walk a few miles, I find a bar, I order a Jameson, and I completely break down. I'm in a bar in suburban New Jersey. I'm wearing an orange Elway jersey. And I'm crying. For the first time in 8 years since my grandfather died, I'm sobbing. And it's not because of the game. It finally hits me that I'm gonna go home the next day to an empty house alone. The next morning, I dig my car out of the snow because, note to the NFL, an outdoor event in February in New Jersey, great idea. I drive home 8 hours in a blizzard. I walk in our apartment, my apartment, and it's quiet and it's empty. There's no furniture and there's no girlfriend. There's one thing on the wall that wasn't there when I left. It's something Beth never wanted me to hang up. It's a picture of John Elway from the Broncos' last Super Bowl 15 years ago. And I knew she hung it up because she cared and she knew I was going to have a hard time coming home to an empty house without her. In the corner on the floor is my TV and the DVR, and I'd recorded the game. And for a second I think, maybe it didn't look that bad on TV. But I can't watch it, and I don't have any furniture anyway. I have one piece of furniture. I go downstairs, I get my grandfather's table out of purgatory, I bring it up, I put the TV on it, I find the game, and I delete it. Because it's just a game. There are more important things.